Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Brohammer Pod. I'm your host, Daniel Smith, coming to you from the Forge. Today I have with me John Lennon, the best Tyranid player in ITC 2017. He has won a couple different GTs, Dakikon, Crucible 6.5. You've also gotten best Tyranids at ATC one year. What's up? How's it going?
It's going pretty well. I'm enjoying Tyranids as always, even after the FAQ. But I'm actually branching out a little bit into Genestealer cult, trying to bring some love to the AX armies.
Yeah, that Genestealer cult was nasty the end of 7th edition, too, when you were playing it. Oh, real fast for everyone, Lennon is not with me today. He is in Tampa. I'm in Central Florida, in Lakeland. Didn't feel like fighting Tampa traffic, so we're recording it kind of with my phone through Discord, so if it sounds a little bit weird or anything, that's why. But we have a couple grand tournaments coming up next month, so we figured we would talk with a very experienced Tyranids player about Tyranids. So, Lennon, let's just jump right in. You said you were looking at some Genestealer cults, so let's actually start with them, and then we'll roll back to Tyranids post-FAQ.
Okay, so what I've been finding so far with Genestealer cult is you really can't take too much of them, just because Cult Ambush is way too finicky to rely on in a multi-game event. This is a pretty common theme. I don't think I'm the first one to do this. Mm-hmm. But I think you really only need the one large unit of pure string Genestealers.
Right.
And you use this stratagem from Chapter Approved. So you roll 3 dice, fishing for a 6, and then if you don't get one with the Primus, you can reroll all 3 of them. So it's a little bit pricey. The Genestealer cult units usually cost more than their Tyranid or Guard equivalents, but you pay for that ability to reserve them without having to buy a transport or usually spending CPs to deep strike unit. So I think it's actually worth it there if you invest a certain amount of your army into it.
Yeah, and it's just finding the right balance. But what I like too is you can take like neophyte squads in units of 19 or 20, I guess, right? They go above the 10-man size that Guard are limited to, correct?
That is correct. I'll run you through my list in a bit, but I've actually been using some 19-man neophyte squads, which they get fearless from the Patriarch. So okay. You can actually roll them a little bit like Chaos Space Marine players use their Chaos Cultist with Abaddon, except the Patriarch is much cheaper than Abaddon.
How many points per model are they, and what's the max unit size? Because no one ever sees Genestealer cult, so it's just less commonly known.
So neophytes are 5 points a model, and they're functionally guardsmen, just +1 leadership, which does come up occasionally. Mm-hmm. And then they get the Cult Ambush, which lets them deploy from reserves. They do max out at 20 mana.
Okay.
19, because we typically play the ITC Champions missions. We all know about that.
That's pretty much it on them. Their psychic powers are also pretty good too, right? So what psychic powers do you usually run?
The big thing is when I run Genestealer cult, I just run 1 battalion, and I put all the resources into the pure string Genestealers. So I only have 1 Psyker, the Patriarch. Mm-hmm. The Genestealer unit, +1 strength, as well as +1 attack. What that does is it just takes that pure string unit and makes them complete blenders. Normal Genestealers are scary, but 5 attacks each at strength 5.
And they still obviously get their Rending Claws or Scything Talons. You bring them with both and all that good stuff. So they just get more attacks.
And the really nice part about all of that, actually a relic in Chapter Approved that a lot of people have missed. And what that does is it gives a 6-inch aura of +1 strength from an icon ward. And you can actually use that to get a Genestealer unit up to strength 6.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's similar to Poxwalkers with Fabulous Bill. You could get them up to strength and toughness 6, which people don't realize. Big blobs of infantry that strong or that tough do kind of a lot.
Yeah, when you get all those buffs on a pure string unit, they can kill almost anything. I use the strength 6 combo to actually take out a full Necron Destroyer unit, which are notoriously hard to kill, and you kind of have to do it all at once to prevent reanimation. 14 of them into 6 destroyers, took out the whole squad. Yeah, I was very happy about that.
Yeah. I haven't actually fought the new Necrons, because I haven't really played much since the FAQ, just because of schedule, trying to get another form of my Chaos Army built, because all the stuff I was playing got nerfed, which makes sense, because it was really good, but all that aside, I just haven't gotten the chance to play much, but I know the Necrons are especially destroyer spam. I think Remy went 4-1 at that one GT with destroyer spam, so I know they're, if nothing else, super durable and I guess pretty killy, because again, you wouldn't win if they couldn't do both. So the more popular topic would be the Tyranids, especially after the FAQ. They went from Codex Flyrant and Biovores to now you have other options that are viable as well. I mean, they were viable before, but because other units got nerfed, now we're seeing more of them. So do you want to give us a quick rundown on that, what you've been bringing, what you've found works, doesn't work, and just general thoughts, everything, how you feel about Tyranids post-FAQ?
So, having lost Flyrants and Biovores, I no longer take either of them. They might be worth it. I just no longer think that they're the best choice, even though Flyrants I could still totally justify. The big thing is digging through the units that aren't nerfed. Hiveguard and Carnifexes both were completely unaffected and are both still excellent for ITC missions. Carnifexes are one of those units that you didn't see them in a lot of lists, but when you did see them, there were like 9 of them. You kind of have to commit to the Carnifexes if you're going to go any at all. I'm running 5 right now, but I could very easily justify 6, 7, 8, 9 more of that with the Carnifex variants, but I don't think I would ever take more than 9, just a little too unbalanced.
Yeah, and I mean, when you run into something that can kill them, they probably disappear kind of quick, so again, an unbalanced list doesn't always work. Do you run Old One-Eye with them, keep him off the table for now? What's your thoughts on Old One-Eye with the Carnifexes, and how exactly do you use Carnifexes, like, as their battlefield role, what you do with them, etc.?
So I run my Carnifexes as primarily shooting. I think that they're too slow to make it into melee, which is why I do not use Old One-Eye. So right now I'm running them just straight up Devours. 4 guns, it's 24 shots, strength 6, and ballistic skill 3. Very, very good platform for the points just to pump out a ton of DACA. They're a lot more tough and durable than people would expect for such a cheap unit. They're -1 to hit innately when you buy them Spore Cysts, which cuts down on the Malanthrope attacks that you previously saw a lot. Yeah. They just have a natural 2+ save because they're always in cover as a monstrous creature, thanks to the Jormungandr trait. And little tanks walking around -1 to hit to a armor save, they take a lot more effort to kill than you'd expect.
Yeah, and really, the Malanthrope's 140, 150 points, and the Spore upgrade is 10 points per model?
Yeah.
So yeah, you drop the Malanthrope, you pick up, if you're running 9 Carnifexes, all 9 of them get Spore Assists, and you're still 50 points under what you would be paying for the Malanthrope, so that's a unit of Neophytes, or you said you don't really bring Biovores anymore, so I guess a Hiveguard body, something like that. It's just it's a little bit of efficiency that you get to add back into the list.
The best part is honestly that you don't have to stay grouped up around that one Malanthrope, which was definitely its weakness, was that it encouraged you to castle up, which with all the movement that Tyranids have, that wasn't always the best thing to do. Yeah,
castling up with Tyranids, you don't get great abilities that help you fall back and shoot. I mean, except for Kraken, but if you're running Kraken, you don't get the innate buffs to your shooting like you would with Jorm or Kronos. Thank you. But yeah, so being able to spread out and not have to worry about getting wrapped by enemy models, like they can't hit your one line and just wrap you. Now they have to dedicate to different areas of the field. So that diversity in deployment and how you can play, changing every game, there's a lot of value in that. So. And I've always been a fan of the Carnifexes. I mean, I was talking about them before the FAQ, but why run them when you could run 5 Tyrants and Molochs? But
exactly.
FAQs change things.
If you actually give you my exact list, just to maybe give the audience a little better view of what I'm talking about. What I'm running right now, I've gotten 4 games within it, 4-0 so far, so I'm pretty happy about that. Now I'm running a Genestealer Cult Battalion. HQ is a Patriarch, Primus, and an Icon Lord to carry the relic, and then a big 19-man unit of Genestealers, and then 3 Neophyte squads. The Neophyte squads can take mortars just like Card can. So I run them as a 9-man, a 9-man, and a 19-man, just to deep strike in with Cult Ambush and give me maximum board control. Then I run a Jormungandr Spearhead, back effects, so 24 shots each, strength 6, and a Neurothrop as an HQ.
Okay, and how many Carnifexes was that again?
That's 5 Carnifexes.
So 2 units of 2 and a single unit of 1?
I just run them as units to lower my drop count. And after that, I just take a Kraken Patrol, Genestealers, and 6 Hive Guard with another Neurothrope.
Okay, how many Genestealers was that? I missed it.
19 in the Kraken Patrol.
Okay, awesome. So you've got 38 total Genestealers and then another 37 total Neophytes. So you got a lot of bodies, and then you also have the big bodies in the Carnifexes, and then a couple different, you said 2 Neurothropes and the one Psyker, the Genestealer called Psyker. So you have a little bit of smite potential and a lot of buffs you can throw around, so that seems pretty solid.
The way it works is that the Carnifex really can't be in melee, so I use all the Genestealer and the Neophytes to kind of screen them out turn 1, since they can kind of ignore the bait rule and they can deep strike outside of my deployments when on turn 1, which really helps me achieve the board control.
Right, I forgot about that. That's a subtle buff that has like huge implications.
Really helped Genestealer by exclusion, because I can't use Ripper Swarms and some of the other normal Tyranid units to achieve that effect. I just have to run up with the unit that's up on the board, or use Genestealer to drop in there. The great thing about the Genestealer is that because they can deep strike so fast, it forces my opponents to kind of bubble out right on the edge of their deployment zone, which usually puts them in initial range of the Carnifex and the Kraken Genestealers on turn 1. Put those units up, they're eating a full Genestealer assault.
Yeah, and if they don't bubble out, they give you board control and you win anyway. So you kind of force them to play your game, and they better do it better than you, or it's not going to feel good.
Exactly.
I really like that a lot, actually. Like, as a Chaos player, it seems very similar to the way Chaos Space Marine lists play, but with more durability, which is a little surprising because I can bring Death Guard. But no, I like that a lot, especially using an army that no one really even cares about and using it in such a strategic way post FAQ.
I think my last 4 games of the Genestealer, I had to explain what they did to every one of my opponents.
Yeah, that
I told them they were a little bit surprised when it happened.
Makes sense. I mean, and reading the FAQ, you see like cult ambush stratagems, like the Alpha Legion stratagem, all that stuff. Like, you read that, but until you fight against it, it doesn't register the same way, I guess. Jimmy is actually coming over sometime this week to play, and I know you've been talking with him about adding some Genestealer cult to the list, so hopefully he's listening and gets some insight, because otherwise it's not going to go too hot for him.
Yeah, I think the Genestealer are definitely worth reevaluating in the post-FAQ world.
Yeah, because, I mean, again, we've been making the comparison a lot, but they do play very similar to cultists, but with the guard buff of taking 9-man units, where cultists have to take minimum 10. So it's kind of getting the best of both worlds, and it doesn't cost command points. So they cost more points per model, 5 points instead of 4. But I think, like you said at the beginning of the pod, what you're getting for that little increase in points really makes it worth it.
Yeah, they just get so much better buffs. They don't get the tactics like a Catachan, like a guardsman does. But they're a lot more likely to get up close than a walking guardsman is.
Yeah, absolutely.
They go into the back corner and tie up shooting units. Like, if you hit a Devastator squad of 10 Neophytes, they're going to be there for a while, because there's no good melee on either side, so they'll just sit there wrapping around them.
Exactly. And one thing I like too is, because they start so far forward, they get rapid fire like cultists pretty quickly, but then they can also charge and tri-point, like you're saying, to tie up backline shooting. Even if only like 4 or 5 of them survive, you said they can get fearless, so they're a lot stickier than people are ready for, it seems like.
Gives them an aura of fearless. He's kind of like a Synapse creature. But then they have the innate leadership 8 when they have a sergeant alive, which is just a little bit better than you'd expect, and usually leaves 1 or 2 guys alive a little longer than they should have been.
As most people who play know, having one dude live when he shouldn't can be the difference between a win and a loss. Like, Cass and he was running a bunch of Blood Angels right when the Codex dropped, and he had all like the Sanguinis Guard, and I think he was running 19-man units. I killed 18 of them. He spent the 2 command points and stayed on objective to win the game. So that matters a lot.
Actually, the best part about that is that Genestealer cult have a second stratagem. It's not touched on very often, but it's Return to the Shadows, just like in last edition, where for 1 command point you can pull a unit off the board. So if you have one guy who lives, you can actually pull the Neophyte or whatever it was back into reserves, and either deny your opponent a kill unit by putting him somewhere in the corner later, or you can drop him onto an objective, get a table quarter, something, be a nuisance.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like Molochs before the FAQ, was they had that similar ability to slip off of the table. And these guys, are they restricted by, like, if they're in melee or anything else, or can they just roll it whenever, locked up, not locked up, anything?
You have to be more than 6 inches from the enemy, but it's at the end of the movement phase, so you can actually move them and then pull them up.
Well, I guess if they can move 6 inches, even if you're in base to base, if you move the full 6 inches, then you'll be 6 inches exactly away, which is the requirement. So, barring weird placements and stuff, you should be able to, at least sometimes, especially if it's a single model or 2 model unit, because most of the unit got wiped out, you should be able to manipulate that easy enough.
Yeah, if you're not completely wrapped, you should be able to get away.
You're going to the Texas Grand Tournament. You want to tell us anything about that? I know it's in Texas, and Bruce, he was a former Florida player. He's now in Texas. He started his own team over there. I'm going to try to have him on the pod, too, at some point. He's hosting this one, correct? So you want to tell us what you know about it, and we'll get more from him next week, hopefully.
Bruce Merker, who's actually in the top 10 of ITC right now. Quick shout out to him. He's had a great season so far. So the event that Bruce is running is called the Dallas Open, and it's going to be a major, obviously held in Dallas. From what I've seen so far, they're supposedly going to have a lot of terrain, but that's been a point of contention this week. So having a lot of line of sight blocking terrain is definitely going to be a major plus, something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, especially, I know the London GT, the terrain in that was apparently kind of bad. The pictures, it was like kind of styrofoam. There wasn't a lot of diversity. They looked kind of sparse. So, and I think that's what I've been seeing too, is Bruce's big emphasis is on having not just a lot of terrain, but having nice terrain, having usable terrain, having a balanced game because of the terrain. Because in a lot of tournaments, the one that Tyranids won that led to them being nerfed, Adepticon, they were sparse on terrain too, which some armies thrive when there's no terrain, like Gunline, Leaf Blower armies, and some armies thrive when there's a lot of terrain, like Shining Spears, Hive Guard, having a ton of Hive Guard, stuff like that. So, and knowing beforehand is huge, so you know how to write the list, and try to write a more balanced list, expecting a balanced amount of terrain. So I really like that. I'm excited. I wish I was able to go to that one, but I was already planning on Mississippi, which is a couple hours closer, and the week before. I can't get both, but we're sending Brohammer guys to both, so that's always awesome. Hopefully we place well. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get a win out of one of these 2 GTs. But there's a lot of good competition that's going to be at both of them, so we'll see what happens.
I really think that the Dallas Open is going to kind of be a nice bookmark of where we are as the meta, because post-FAQ, well, saw Dark Eldar thrive. It'd be good to get another major win, just kind of see what armies are thriving, especially with the good line of sight. Those of us who play the ITC Champs missions, I don't think the London GT really offers us much.
Yeah, I'm excited, especially because Texas is pretty central. It's kind of a trip for everybody, but that means we should get a good blend of people. I think it's already up to 80 people are going. It's a major event, so like we'll get a good feel for the meta after 2 weekends in a row of having GTs. So I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a good couple weeks.
I don't know exactly how many people there are now, but I know that they've already hit major status, which, considering there's about 4 more weeks until the event, that's a great place to be.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially because this is their first year doing it. If you can get a major in 1 year, I mean, you're doing something right.
I think Dallas is just a really good place to host that because, as you said, it's very near to everywhere.
Yep, absolutely. Where Florida, you got 45 of the 50 states have to travel for quite some time to get to you, especially Central Florida, where you got to travel 6 hours to go from one point in Florida to here. It's a long drive for everybody. If there was anything else you wanted to say, now's the time to say it, because we're hitting that 30-minute mark, so I think it's about time to wrap her up.
I don't think I had too much else to add. Hopefully we can do the next one in person. In the next month, I'm going to go to 2 GTs. I'm going to go to Mississippi, which is the Gulf Coast Wargaming Alliance, and then I'll be going to Dallas a week after that. So hopefully I can do some stuff with the Genestealer cult, but not everyone sees coming.
See, somehow I knew you were going to Mississippi because, like, you literally got us the Airbnb, and I forgot that for this entire pod. So I feel brilliant right now. So with that, me being retarded, we will end this one. I shouldn't say that. I should probably say me being stupid or something like that. So I might
say something more politically correct, like being a Tau player.
I have played Tau before, so I guess I am a dirty Tau player. So with that, now I will end this. Thank you, John. Hopefully, like you said, next time we can have you on in person. Probably be a little less editing for me, which is nice because I'm lazy. But all right, to everyone listening, I appreciate it. Sorry that we came out a little bit late this week. I got all my, well, not all my, but most of the models I need for the next couple GTs. So I've been building and painting nonstop, and it was like 10 o'clock last night, and I was just like sitting there. Cass messaged me and asked why the pod wasn't up yet because he was hoping to listen before bed, and I hadn't recorded one, so that was great. So yeah, anyway, that's my excuse. We will see y'all next week.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks again for joining us. We will see y'all later.